Welcome to the Entrepreneur Toolbelt podcast, the only podcast you'll ever need to get your business to the next level. This podcast is powered by Antoine Campbell Enterprise. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Entrepreneur Toolbelt podcast. It's episode 4. I got a special guest today. We got a crazy episode. We're going to be talking about Airbnbs, how to get your Airbnb, and what it takes to get your Airbnb. April Pradier, she's from Washington, D.C. I've known her for years. Me and my wife, she's a very good friend of the family, and she's going to give us some game. She reminds me of one of my aunts. She's very humble, very poised, and she's a natural-born hustler. And if you're interested in learning how to get your business and bootstrap your business and wholesaling or Airbnbs, check this interview out and share it. I'm going to introduce her right now. Everybody, welcome April to the show.
Hello.
What's up, April? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How are you? How's everything?
It is what it is. It's always moving. Got to keep the cash flowing.
I love the glasses.
Thank you. Mike, this is my cat look.
Welcome to the podcast. So the Entrepreneur Podcast is a podcast I started because I wanted entrepreneurs to be able to have an opportunity to get quality information from a podcast without having to worry about spending a lot of money initially. So that's why I created the show.
That's what's up. I love it. Keep the hustle going.
Awesome. So yeah, let everybody know who you are, where you're from, and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. So April Pradier. Last name used to be Bond, but I like Pradier a little bit better. It's fancy. So I'm a native-born Washingtonian. As Antoine alluded, I have been in real estate investing, and I'm a seasoned investor for over 15 years. My husband is also a realtor. My son actually this weekend is going to classes for his home inspections license. And my other, we are a family of entrepreneurs. We don't play no games, but that 15 years is a caveat because really where my entrepreneurialism came in was originally when I was a little girl. So grew up, obviously DC. My grandmother was on 16th Street Heights, Gold Coast area, had a big 8-bedroom house. And back then I thought it was a mansion, but it was nothing fancy about it. She had what's called a convalescent home back then, but now it's called assisted living. And she taught my sister and I essentially how to run that business, how to take care of patients, and how we originally took it was, oh, okay, cool. We're going to become nurses. No, that's not. I was a realtor before then. And this is back, from the 60s and the 50s. So she was grinding and learning how to, really get into real estate and understand how, economics really works. So from learning that, it kind of propelled me to where I am now.
Awesome. So, you grew up with your grandma. A similar story to mine. I love my grandma, and she really poured into me. And my granddad, he really told me about real estate. So early on in Washington, D.C., I know you said you were working in an assisted living home. What made you fall in love with, entrepreneurship outside of that? Was it something else?
I'm gonna tell you. I mean, I think that it's in your DNA. Really be a really smart person or a really dumb person in order to get into real estate. But when you plant the seeds early, at some point, once they're watered, they will harvest. So even though I was introduced into real estate strategies early, and I didn't even know that's what I was being introduced to, I ended up getting into stocks first. So I traded as a day trader for a year, and I made really, really good money. But you see, all of this, it's all a game for me, and my game is to win. So it's for fun. So I did that for a year, did really, really well with that, and then decided to get into real estate. But in the middle of that, I took some economic classes, personal development around everything entrepreneurial, my character as to who I was going to be as an entrepreneur, as someone in real estate. And it just kind of blossomed from there. So I really didn't fall in love, so to speak, with real estate until I touched it. And when I touched it 15 years ago, it just made complete sense to me. I fell in love with trading stocks too. As
So
soon as I
what
did.
happened with the trading stocks thing? Like you lost your shirt? What happened? Why you ain't
No,
continue?
I made a lot of money, but I'm a scientist, so I have a degree in microbiology. So my initial passion was in drug development and research. So I did that. The one thing that I can say that I think is very important, you have to set goals for yourself. I was setting goals at 5, and whatever I said I was going to do, I did it. Want to do this, it's done. You might as well just say it's done because it's about learning how to dream, have vision, set goals, and then execute on that vision. So, that's why I stopped. I stopped because I decided to do biomedical research, and I did biomedical research for some time and loved that too. And just kept on raising my money, escalating until I got on a leadership level.
Wow, that's impressive. Speaking of leadership, like what's some things that you do to kind of sharpen up your leadership skills to this day?
Yeah, I think that, again, going back to the personal development, I mean, in order to be a leader, you have to first be a follower, right? To understand the footsteps and the pathway of those that you plan to lead. So, going into as far as a lane, I always start at the grassroots level. I think that you can very easily just jump right straight to the top, but then you don't understand the people who support you and provide service to you as to what their needs are as well, because this is supposed to be a mutual arrangement where we're balanced together, and we need to be able to understand how one hand feeds the other.
Correct.
That,
So
that's huge for me.
so you've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I'm not good at math, but that's
Hmm.
2004, 2005ish, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was actually a little bit before then. So I just keep saying 15 years. It was early 2000s.
Okay. So I'm trying to draw a conclusion that this was post internet, right?
Yes, it was actually.
Give me some
Yeah, it
feedback
was.
how it was to be an entrepreneur before the internet. Now everybody got Instagram, Facebook, everybody's winning. But how was it, before the internet where you had to actually bootstrap it and get it how you live before the internet?
It really wasn't anything extraordinary, because where it really starts, again, it starts with your goal setting and determining what you want to do. So as far as like where I am now with understanding creative finance and Airbnb, fix and flip, commercial, I can name 20 different strategies here that I have actually touched. But back then, the only strategy I really knew was just buy and hold and rent, you know.
Right.
So that's essentially just what I was doing. Actually, I was doing flipping. So I was renovating properties and then I was holding them. And that was taught to me by my grandmother. I
Nice.
give all kudos to her. She was a grinder,
So your grandma
grinder.
was your grandma was in the real estate business.
Yes, she was. And my grandmother, about 4 foot nothing, cute little thing. I thought she was white until I was probably 20, because she was extremely fair skinned and she had that long, pretty hair that came all the way past her butt, and she would wear it in one long ponytail. But what I learned from her, which I thought was really just huge, was, you know, that if, again, going back to the goal setting, that if you can see the vision, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. If you ask, you shall receive. So even back then, and she told us her story, and she was like, I want you guys, I want you girls, because she's talking to us girls, even though there were two boys too, she taught us how to, set tables and to be really prim and proper and all these things. And she wanted us to marry the darkest thing. And she's like, I want you to marry a rich man and all these things. And I'm like, okay, just teach me the real estate. And
Right.
she did. And she did. But one thing that I didn't take heed on, when they had those $1 properties in DC, she begged me and my sister, begged us to buy those properties. And I was like, oh, those properties are ugly. She said, all you got to do is pay the taxes. I could have been a gazillion millionaire, beyond, been
Right.
probably maybe even the billions. I could have owned multiple properties on New York Avenue, South Dakota, Georgetown, Capitol Hill. You got to listen.
It's puzzling because I remember growing up. I born '88, right? I remember growing up in the '90s, and I remember we couldn't even go outside. Like when I lived in Arthur Capers, there was needles on the ground, right? Like
Yep.
you couldn't even go outside and play. It was junkies everywhere. And
Yep.
I never in my life would thought that that house that we stayed in, my mom was on Section 8, and I guess they was getting like $1,200 a month for rent, would be worth $900,000. Never in my life.
Well, what's so funny, I remember just when I met Tony. Tony, that's my husband. He's a realtor. I'm here in DC. When my son turns 24 tomorrow, so I guess we met maybe a year before that. 5 years ago, he used to take me down on Capitol Hill on 8th Street to this little hole. It was crazy. It was junkies walking around. It was horrific. He sent me this like little Mexican restaurant right over there. And I just was like, wow, this is so bad. But everything was for sale and nobody was buying because it was such a bad area. Could you imagine if we just would have bought one of those commercial buildings, which were going for like $50,000 because nobody wanted them? Just
Right.
one. Just one. We could have held on to it and it'd have been worth millions of dollars hand over. So it's just amazing the transformation. So I'm gonna roll into this because so speaking of Capitol Hill, because I love to buy in Capitol Hill, um, my first Airbnb was an accident. Okay. It was a pure accident. I
Before we get into
per-
that, hold on. Before we get into that,
okay, hold on.
let's pause to take a quick commercial break because I wanna go straight into the Airbnb, and I want you to tell me
Okay.
the game and show me how to get this Airbnb thing popping.
Boom, I can
This
do it.
podcast is sponsored by V1 VAs. If you're looking for a virtual assistant, we are the number one place to come and get your virtual assistants. I don't care if you're a realtor, if you run a car agency, if you run an ad agency, if you are a wholesaler. I don't care what you is. If the position requires you to use a computer or a working telephone, I can get you somebody in that position for $4 an hour, fully trained, ready to go. Stop wasting time and get to the next level with your business by generating more money and doing less and spending less on labor costs. Text me now, 202-335-3322. The time is now to take your business to the next level. We're back from our commercial break. Guys, get your VA. I'm telling you, I got you. So let's get into this Airbnb thing because it's a phenomenal strategy, especially if you understand creative financing or if you understand market analysis and rents, and you can actually get more rent Airbnb in a property than renting it. And I know for a fact April is killing it, so that's why I want on the show to really talk about it and dive deep into it.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, as far as Airbnb goes, I think everybody should be doing. I want to start there first. I think that it is an easy entry point if you want to do arbitrage, especially, and you can cash flow maximally. You just have to, really think about is this a strategy for you? That's first and foremost.
Okay.
So, getting into the first Airbnb, um, let's see here. So it was by accident. It was purely by accident. I had a wholesaler sell me a duplex in Capitol Hill in a phenomenal neighborhood. Phenomenal, not that far from Lincoln Park, not that far from Eastern Market. And it was black owned, and the owner did not want to sell to anyone other than black. That's just what it was. The entire block is not diverse, and oddly enough, the first richest entrepreneurial real estate developer built on that block and lived on that block. So there's a big plaque, like a couple of doors down, to show this as a historical site and building. So, but that's a whole nother story. Anywho, so I purchased the property from the wholesaler. The wholesaler was trying to sell it to me. I want to say, I'm trying to remember the numbers, like 585, maybe to maybe like 560 ish. There
Mhm.
was a tenant in the bottom level, and the upper level was just cold blooded busted. The tenant, of course, because they're TOPA laws, the tenant said that she didn't want anything to do with the property. And here we are, I'm trying to purchase the property. After maybe like about a day or two, waiting for her to sign the TOPA agreement, she obviously talked to somebody and decided, oh, well, maybe I do want to buy it, knowing damn well she did not want to buy it. However, long story short, had to pay her out. So I paid her out 15K, and the wholesaler paid her out 15K. So she got 30K just to leave.
Good God Almighty. Let's talk about TOPA because we got a lot of people around the country that don't know what that is. So can you give a quick overview of what that is?
Yeah, so TOPA is a law that was established maybe like in the early 80s, um, to protect renters essentially. The DC is very renter friendly, not investor friendly. And it just basically just gave them the right of first refusal, offering them the right to purchase the property before you sold it from up under them. That's the short and dirty of it. And there is a process with TOPA as to how you have to proceed. It's a step by step. And if you fall out of any of those steps, then potentially you lose the right to be able to have them for them to exercise their rights in order to purchase the property. And you have to start all over again at the very, very beginning of that process. So with this particular lady, because she was going to agree not to, or to basically to forgo her TOPA rights, we just needed that in, documented and signed. We needed her a picture. I mean, it goes so far as you have to have a picture of her actually signing the document, have a copy of her ID. You almost need to have a video. I mean, it gets pretty elaborate. I mean, to get somebody with the TOPA stuff, but
Right.
yeah, so it's modern day extortion is really what it is. So yeah, we both gave her money to leave, and she left very happily.
I mean, if you pay me thirty
Moving
thousand
on. So
dollars,
I got.
I'm a tenant. I'll leave too.
I get it. I mean, I believe me, I get it. And this woman, she worked on the hill. Like somebody just got into her ear, essentially. So with me, with any property, and this was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago when I did this deal. I love creative financing, and I love $0 deals as well. So I
Right.
purchased this property, let's say for 560, because I don't remember the exact number, and I had to pay this lady 15K. However, my hard money lender, we had an established relationship, and their rules at the time was essentially that they would finance 100% of the acquisition rehab cost up to 80% ARV.
Wow.
So I said, "Oh, okay, let me." Exactly. And because they had a relationship with me and they knew my work and they knew what I would produce, they rolled in on my closing costs and everything. So I didn't have to put anything down in closing. I did a $0 deal with acquiring this Capitol Hill duplex, that I purchased and then, wanted to renovate. So another little trick that I did though. So for the renovation cost, because I have internal folks, I had my own construction company, and at the
Right.
time, I had a really good team of folks. So for the upstairs, I need to do a complete renovation. It was a complete, really bad shape. For the downstairs, because somebody had been living there and it was just a single woman, there was really nothing wrong with it outside of a few things being outdated. So for the downstairs, all I did was paint and like clean very thoroughly. The bathroom was already halfway remodeled, so I didn't have to do anything downstairs. Upstairs, because it's only maybe 700 square feet. My renovation cost was like, I don't know. I try to remember. It might have been like 20 or 30,000, maybe. So I asked the hard money lender, I believe, for 70.
Wow.
Oh. I think that and this isn't to tell people to do things that may be potentially unethical or really not trying to go that route. But
Right.
I think that if there's an opportunity where you have enough meat on your bones, why not take the meat up front?
Right.
I like to take the meat up front. So then also, even if I were planning to sell the property, which that was my initial intent, was to flip the property. If I were to flip the property, then I would have received maybe 50K up front that I could put in my back pocket. That would also be a non-taxable event on that money. So moving forward, after the property was done, because most hard money loans, they're for 6 months. I was done in less than 4 weeks. So I had a whole 5 months just sitting there. So because everything was rolled into my loan, including my monthly payments, on with it a bit. So I decided to furnish the unit, I went on, and these are some of the tricks for this. I went on Facebook Marketplace. I went on Craigslist, and I went to TJ Maxx, and I did my own design. And my husband and I, we designed the place very well. It's beautiful. We spent no more than $2,000 to furnish that space for 2 bedrooms,
Wow.
full living room, and the only thing that was brand new was the pull-out sofa because we wanted that to match our decor perfectly. Another trick, when you go into Craigslist and you go onto Facebook Marketplace, there were certain areas that we targeted for front, wanted to make sure that it was in good shape and that it was of good quality. We wanted the Ethan Allen furniture essentially. So we needed to go to areas where people could afford that. So we went to Adams Morgan, we went to Capitol Hill, and we went to Georgetown. Those were the three areas that we targeted for Marketplace and for Craigslist because those people had grand furniture. I mean, prime example, we got a king size bed for $200 and it was brand new. It was only 6 months old. The reason why we got it for so cheap, originally she had marketed it for maybe like $1,000 or something like that, but it had been sitting. Nobody wanted to buy it. So when I reached out to her, I negotiated her down to $400. She was like, "Look, if you can come get it, you can almost have it for free." I said, "No, I'll pay you $200." She said, "Great." I went and got that bid that night, even though I had nowhere necessarily to put it in that very moment. But we went ahead and picked it up because you have to seize the moment. You seize the opportunity, and that's how you win. There are
You know
opportunities that are falling
that
in our life.
that's true because LaShawn had me on some high haters a couple of times. Oh, yeah, by the zoo, and we was down by the Verizon Center. Some lady, she was moving back overseas, and she gave us all this brand new stuff, and she was like, "Hey, I don't have nowhere to take it." So
Exactly.
that's a nugget right there, guys. So look at
Absolutely.
areas in your city that where people live that got a little money that their appetite for quality is high. That you can kind of go on Facebook Marketplace and catch your deal.
Yeah, I'll take it a step further. Regardless of what area you live in, you need to be looking closer to the inner city, so your downtown area, because this is where people are coming to live short term, right? So they may be there. In DC, of course, we have lobbyists and all kinds of things, but it doesn't matter if you're in Arizona or California. You have people that come to your city who only need to be there for a year. They
Right.
need a place either furnished or they're going to furnish it. If they furnish it, that means when it's time to go home, they have nothing to do with that furniture but sell it. So look for your yard sales. Look for your I'm going out of town sales because those people are desperate to let go of that furniture and they'll take any cost because in 2 weeks they got to go back home.
Awesome.
Okay. So after we furnished the Airbnb, then initially initially we weren't sure because I wasn't hip to all the different platforms because at the end of the day, this is not about Airbnb. This is about short-term rental, right? So there's VRBO, there's Airbnb, there's all the different platforms where you can purchase hotels, right? It's at least 30. And I actually train on this for short-term rentals. So I don't want to keep saying Airbnb because I'm basically promoting their brand. And it's not just about their brand. You can use more than one platform, and it's actually best that you can maximize on your profit. Okay. So we got involved with Airbnb first. And the way that Airbnb works is that when you get on their platform, they automatically give like a promotion for the first three customers or clients that stay at your place. So because I didn't know that, I didn't boost my rent up a little bit. So for you guys who are starting out, if the area calls for your nightly rent, let's say to be $100 per night, maybe you want to make it 110 or 115 at first so that when you get your first three guests and they do that discount, which may be like 40% off or whatever it is, then you can still realize a higher profit margin, even though there'll still be discount else's rate. It'll be discounted to a point where you can still have a higher margin. So after we did that, I'm trying to think here. After we did that, then we had our first guest come in, and that's when we just start learning lessons. So, do you want me just to go into some like structure as to how you should start?
Yeah, yeah. So you started off. It was pretty much bootstrap, right? You didn't have like a here's how to start your first Airbnb guide. This is strictly trial and error, right?
Strictly trial and error. It
So
was
give me. So let's do it this way. Give me three things you learned during trial and error, and then once we go after the three things you learned during trial and error, give me three things that you suggest that a person brand new could do to get their first Airbnb. Let's start off like that.
okay. So trial and error was number one, that furniture and how to furnish your place for a cheaper cost. That's first and foremost. Number two, I learned that you need to learn the rules for your city or your state because Airbnb is being blacklisted. Short-term rentals are being blacklisted depending on what state you're in. So you need to understand what the rules and regulations are, and you act accordingly based on your business model, based on your risk tolerance as well.
Correct.
Okay. Um, Number three, I also learned that even with those rules and regulations, it's very important to be sociable and friendly to your neighbors. Your neighbors need to know who you are. They need to know that this is your house. And to a degree, without going too far and giving them all your business, you got to let them coming in and out of this place, so that they don't ever feel alarmed, or discouraged or afraid and want to report you by any means. If and I've never had any issues. However, if I did, I would want them to call me. So I'm very friendly and I speak to all of my neighbors. So that was huge, as far as learning lessons, because I had heard some horror stories from some other people. Now, what I would say is when someone new is looking into Airbnb, I think they number one need to understand what are their goals and strategies here. I'm done making hundreds. I will only make thousands from this moment forth in my life, and it has been like that for many, many a year. So if your idea is that you make a certain threshold, then you need to number one, you need to do your homework and you need to evaluate the situation as to whether or not you're going to meet your goals. And anything above that, that's gold money right there. And you can take that. Um, I think also outside of goal setting, you need to network. You need to network with other people that are doing what it is that you're trying to do. Or if you're already in the Airbnb space, then I think that you need to also network with those who already have some as well, because you're going to learn some tricks of the trade. Number three is that once you have your short-term rental set up, it's not just about making money just from that one source. The
Right.
sources in which you can make money in this space. If you have a house, then maybe you could think about having a vending machine. I had someone tell me a while back about how they hooked up with a local artist and had the artist display their paintings in their house. And then there was a barcode where they can just scan the barcode if they wanted to purchase that painting. And so you had new artwork filtering into the house. And now you're giving your house a new look every couple of weeks, maybe
Smart.
even every week. It's super smart. So, and then you have peer space and all these other different, platforms where you could rent out your short term rental space instead of for 2 or 3 days, maybe for 2 or 3 hours, and make the same exact 3 days. So this is about being creative and not putting yourself in a box.
Awesome. So let's
Mhm,
talk about because we talked about the three things, right? Let's talk about
mhm.
screening. Like what are some things you look for before you allow someone to come into your residence?
Well, most people don't scream, but I most certainly do. I think that it's important to screen because the wrong people coming into your space, they'll ruin your space. So first and foremost, it's going to depend on your location as to what you're going to attract. Capitol Hill is going to attract a different clientele than maybe an area that's more rural.
Right.
Um, so as far as my screening goes, I don't necessarily care for locals because locals are there to party or to do, have some fun, essentially, which means that they potentially can bust up your stuff. I think I've done that maybe 3 times and got a little bit burned. Not crazy burned, but a little bit burned each time because the locals are just, going buck wild in your space. So that's a big one. So part of my screening is um, they have to have ID. Okay, so Airbnb does that part first, and then there's also a filter where you can also request that they have 5 stars or above, which that is the highest, or you can screen for whether or not they don't have any reviews at all. So if it doesn't have any reviews, then I'm not interested.
Right.
But I have them also to give a brief description as to who they are, just an introduction. And I personally want to know, why are you coming to DC? What is your business in DC? Because if you're here to have fun and the party, my space might not be best for you.
Right.
Yeah, and I have all of that written out in a very clear description online in my manual as to what my requirements are, my expectations. So I set the expectations up front, and then I ask the questions on the back end before I accept or decline someone.
So when you build your manual, is it something that you put together based on your knowledge of the city, or was it a guide that you just could download from the Airbnb website?
Oh, this is something that I put together personally. I wanted to make sure that I had all the information that anybody would ask, that I would ask if I were traveling, right? The basics like, what's close to my Airbnb? There's a laundromat here, there's, food there, hospitals are here, EMT is there. So just in case there's an emergency, you know where to go. There's a park here. So if you want to run, have at it. All of the local attractions, I give them that too. So my manual, I have a 4-page manual, front and back laminated, makes it 2 pages. So that's the first thing that I have. Secondly, I have a laminated map of our metro rail system, because most people who are coming to Capitol Hill, they're there to travel, right? Vacation. They come from all over the world. So they need to know how to get around the city. A lot of people might want to go to Georgetown, or might want to go to Capitol Hill, or even some parts of upper Northwest as well. The museums are basically walking distance or a very quick bus ride or Uber ride even, from this location. So I state all of that, all the conveniences involved. But also I have a list of April and Tony's recommendations of just things to do. So I mentioned MGM, I mentioned the Monument and the National Mall. I mentioned restaurants, like our top 10 favorite restaurants. I have Mastro's on that list. You know about that Mastro's.
Butter cake.
Butter cake. That's all
I
I can
love me
say.
some butter cake, man. Shit, I might have to drive down there.
I get it. I get it. I get it. But I try to do it so that even though they're my recommendations, I want you to know my Asian food recommendations, my Indian food recommendations, my soul food recommendations, my high end recommendations, my steak recommendations, the whole nine, so that I'm not just catering to one audience versus another. I keep it really broad and diverse, and all the reviews that I get are very favorable because I do that and I try to accommodate. I don't, I used to put waters in the house, but then I decided not to do that because it was just a waste. But I
Right.
accommodate with coffee. I have a variety of coffee cups for the K cup machine. um, and I make sure that anything that they need, that they can ask.
So it's safe to say that this is not a transactional thing, right? This is literally something that you have to devote and really be energetic and detail oriented. And I see why the hotel industry is pissed off, because that's direct competition in what they do, especially if you can give just as much service as the Four Seasons down the street can.
Yeah, or even better, right? Because at the end of the day, even the way that I travel, I only travel I go to villas now where I have full service there with butlers and everything else, or I'm traveling Airbnb because I want to be able to have my own kitchen and prepare my own food, order if I want to. I mean, there's a lot to this. So and I can't understate that.
Yeah, I've been traveling a lot lately, and one of the things I realized is that in the next 5 years, the travel industry is going to be changed different. No more going into a hotel with a 350 square foot hotel room. You can literally figure out ways to. I stayed in my first villa in West Palm Beach. Amazing, amazing place. So I
Yeah.
definitely think that's an amazing thing to do. So what I want to do
I
is
mean,
I want to take another commercial break. Right, we're going to talk about easy skip for the commercial break, but I want to go over underwriting criteria. what are some places that you can invest in, and what are some places you should just run away from, stay away from when it comes to Airbnb after this commercial break? Let's take this commercial break really quickly. This podcast, the Entrepreneur Toolbelt podcast, is sponsored by Easy Skip Tracing. Go to Easy Skip Tracing for your most robust data for your real estate investor business. Don't cheat yourself. Treat yourself to some amazing skip tracing. Remember, Easy Skip Tracing. That's easyskiptracing.com. Don't miss out. Don't cut corners. If you cut corners, I guarantee you, you'll go around that. We're back. Hey, listen, guys, if you're not using Easy Skip Tracing for your data, you're playing yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice. You can got two ways to do this real estate business. You can pay for good data, or you can just spend a lot of money and don't get deals. Simple as that. So, April, let's talk about underwriting, right? Like, I did a deal for Airbnb, and I'm very transparent, and I got my ass handed to. But if I would have knew some things like location and all of that stuff, I would never done that deal, right? Because I'm just looking at the numbers on the paper. Like, oh, this is a good deal. I can make $3,000 a month, not realizing that the location deterred the amount of money I can make.
Well, let me say this though too. Your location, it is important. However, you can make money in any location. Let me give you a prime example. A prime example, and you know DC, deep in the hood of Congress Heights, I have a friend who actually works for HUD who has a short-term rental, and he was doing it through arbitrage. So essentially what that means is that renting the property and then doing a master lease. And I want to say that his rent, he told me it was like maybe $900. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. He was making sure that he rented for $70 because that's what that area called for, right? So
Right.
depending on where you are, the math is simple. The math just has to do with what is your rent or what is your mortgage if you own the property. Go on some of the short-term rental sites or like an AirDNA and determine how much per night rent can I get through these platforms. And then from there, once you do that math, because you're basing it off of 30 days to find out.
Air DNA. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people who probably don't know what that is. What the hell is Air DNA? Sounds like a fraternity
Air
test type of site.
AirDNA.com is just a website, and it has a lot of analytical data specific to Airbnb and short-term rentals and arbitrage. So that's just one component where you could, look at the analytical data in reference to the nightly rent, right? So going back to Congress Heights. So $70 a night. That made sense for that area. He did the inside perfectly. It looked like it could have been, downtown somewhere. Gorgeous. But the outside, a little shifty, a little shady. And that's the level of, and that's the comment that he got. But what he included for accommodations was so stellar that he gets 5 stars, even though he's in the middle of the hood and it's a little shifty, a little shady. If he's booked out for the whole month at $70 a night, then that's $2,100.
Yeah,
as long
that's
as
what
you're
I'm thinking in my head. 2,100 in Congress. What's that? Capital? You said Congress Heights.
no Congress Heights, and I'm talking about the deep part of Congress Heights, like for real, like one of those really skinny little row houses. I mean, it looked like nothing on the outside. I mean, it looked a mess. If you were vacationing and you walked up to that house, you might be a little nervous. But when you opened the door, it was beautiful, flawless, beautiful. So
it looked like
and
2022.
this is a nugget too, huh?
I said it looked like 2022 in there, huh?
Oh, it looked like I don't know what in there. But at the end of the day, this is a nugget. It doesn't matter where you do your Airbnb. Just do your due diligence up front to know that you're not going to ask for $200 nightly there.
Right.
And that everyone else around you, if anyone else is doing, Airbnb or any type of short-term rental there, they know that maybe they have to do a lower per night rate. And you can look these things up so that you can kind of, be comparable with their competition. I mean, and you got to think about it. Here in DC specifically, we're close to everything. So Congress Heights, he was minutes away from the harbor, minutes away from the Gaylord, right? So all of minutes away from the outlets. So
yeah, the
there were a
outlet,
lot of things, right?
even
So
the
yeah,
baseball
was it
stadium, the baseball stadium, Audi Field, the soccer stadium, like it's and not to get off subject, like I'm driving through the city, right? Because sometimes when I finally go to DC, I live an hour away now, all the way out West Bubba, whatever. And I said, I just want to drive through the city, see what my city up to. And as I'm riding past DC jail, they literally put an apartment complex in front of the jail, like literally across the street. I'm like, what the hell? Who in the world will stay in between the jail and the morgue?
It's
And then
nice too.
I'm like, hey man, it is what it is. I'm like, this is crazy.
That's why I keep saying, opportunities have been around us every day, and they continue to be around us. And not to change the subject again, but this whole thing with hijacking the gas. I mean,
Right.
people are like running around like crazy. They're in lines that 40 and 50 car lines, staying to get some gas because all the gas is freezing up. Some of the gas stations, they're out of gas, or they're charging you $8 per gallon. That to me doesn't sound like devastation. To me, that sounds like cha-ching, right? So you have to find the opportunity in the chaos. And while everybody's flocking to the chaos, everybody's flocking to the gas station, I'm flocking to stocks. I'm flocking to where can I find the opportunity in this chaos? Well, I'm outside of the box and I'm going right.
So
Just I'm sorry.
get right now. Give me your top 2 stock picks. If I was a person I didn't know shit about stock, I got a couple of $1,000. What would you want me to put my money into?
I can't tell you the exact stocks because that's kind of going over lines for me, especially because I used to trade too. However, what I will say is,
give me an industry. If you can't tell me the exact stock, where should people park their money? It should be commodities, should be technology. Where should they park their money?
Well, right now, and I can't remember if we're moving out of one sector into another right now because I follow sectors, because everything runs in cycles. But because of the whole COVID thing and some things have bounced back, number one, I absolutely love technology stocks still, and I love entertainment industry stocks. So, like example, when COVID first hit, the first thing I said was airlines, we need to buy like crazy, and cruise liners, we need to buy like crazy.
Spirit Airlines, I've been buying them up.
But that's my point. Disney went down too. Do you think Disney is snapping back right now?
Oh yeah.
Boom. It's booming. It's ridiculous, which is why I bought in Florida. So that's going to be another major money maker between $5,000 and $8,000 a month. And that's with me going down there and having my own place of leisure. You understand what I'm saying? Like this isn't about the diamond in the rough, or you can find short-term rentals anywhere. Absolutely. It's just all about the numbers. It's all about the numbers. It's not even about the location necessarily. Some people may beg to differ on that one, but the fact that I know that there are people in super rural areas and people who are in the hood, as long as you're close to something where you can kind of counterbalance some of that offset with possibly being in a rural area or in the hood, and you have a really, really nice setup on the inside, you can't lose, because at the end of the day, like you said, the industry is forever changed. Why sleep in a room that's 200 square feet, 300 square feet and paying $150 a night when you can stay in a short-term rental in Capitol Hill and maybe it's 800 square feet with 2 bedrooms, privacy, 2 bathrooms, a full kitchen, a dining room, outside patio. I mean, you have more convenience that way. You have more privacy that way. And you can invite more family that way, where you're not now sleeping in the same room on 2 separate beds, but now you have your 2 separate spaces. You can close the door.
Right. So basically, let's talk about the Orlando move.
Okay.
You got your house in Orlando, and you're gonna offset their expenses by short term renting it out. And then when you see time in your schedule, you'll block it out and go down and enjoy your property. Am I correct?
Yeah. The way that this one works, because Florida is a little tricky, but the way that this one works, this is in a luxury development, right? So it has 4 PGA golf courses. One was designed by Jack Nichols, and this property is a buy. It is a purchase. It is our property where we can say no short-term rental, and it just be a second home. Which means, as far as underwriting goes, again, you're looking at possibly a lower down payment, so forth and so on. But what's so interesting is because I got into a new development. So I have it all written down here as I want to look at the numbers for myself. So the one thing that is good about that is that it comes with a ton of incentives. Awnings,
Nice.
we're getting 10K from the realtor, we're getting 10K from the developer. We're not paying any HOA fees for 2 years. We're
So
not
hold
paying
on,
any of the club.
this a brand new development?
Not the entire development, but this project, as far as these penthouse villas or penthouse condos.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. It's in
Yeah,
stages. They develop in stages. It's almost remind me of Mansion Nothing. They just keep building in different stages on top of the mountain.
exactly. So it's a huge resort, as far as everything that's there and stuff that's been there for a while. But for this specific thing that they're building, I'm getting it off the first stage, which also means opportunity because that's appreciation. As they go through the stages, they'll be raising the price.
Correct.
And into 40K worth of equity before I even signed the contract. Brand new. With all of these perks, we can play golf, which is a very expensive thing to do. We can play golf for free for 2 years. You can't beat that.
I know where I'm gonna come post up at in Orlando now.
Yeah, come on. So all we have to do is just give them a heads up of our year so that they can feel free to then go out and book our place up for the next year. And if there are any gaps or if there are any look, nope, I know you booked this, but we want to be here. It's our place, right? So we have, first right to our place to say, you know what? No, we're coming down. We just want to be respectful, that if somebody has already booked this.
And all of this is done through, I'm assuming, some type of third-party management company.
That's correct. So even with your own personal short-term, either you can do all of your property management or you can have someone else do all your property management. Just, include all those costs of that. So with this property management company for the Florida property, it's full service concierge. I mean, it's so great that as soon as you get there, if you call, they'll pick you up in a golf cart, take all your luggage up for you and everything.
Wow. That reminds me, because I'm with Westgate. I got Westgate and I'm with RCI. I got all the travel crap. That reminds me of them. They come pick you up. Hey, Mr. Campbell, how you doing? It reminds me of that.
When I go to sell it in a year, maybe I will have appreciated 100K and now I can take those gains. That's the only difference.
Yeah, Orlando is a really hot market right now. I spent a month down there. Actually, 2 weeks. I spent 2 weeks and I spent the rest of the 2 weeks in southern Florida. But when I was there, they had buildings on top of buildings on top of apartments being built. And to my knowledge, the locals said it's still not enough room for all the new people to move.
Well, you got to remember, people who live in New York and in California have been going to Arizona, Texas, and Florida. So there's a huge opportunity to seize at this moment. When we were down there looking for investment properties 2 weeks ago, when we had no idea that we were going to be buying new because I develop properties. So my initial intent was for us to find, a dilapidated or distressed property, to purchase it, renovate it, make it our own, and then do short-term rental and stay down there whenever we wanted to with a pool and a jacuzzi, right? But as we were going around to the properties to some of these open houses, it might have been 50 people standing outside just to get into the open house because the whole entire country is so hot as a result of COVID and people wanting to kind of bunker down with some of these lower interest rates as well.
Right.
So taking advantage. I just was telling, it's so funny. I was just telling one of my best friends that, when you think about, prices of houses, because some people are like, oh my God, the boom is coming. Okay, that's fine. You're going to lose, period. Right. But if you're doing some personal development, then you know that if the property that you want to buy today is 500K, but a year ago was 450K. Well, a year ago when it was 450K, the interest rates were 5%, or maybe they were 4%. Now you can purchase a property for 2% for 500. Which one is actually saving money? Which one has the lower mortgage? It's actually you paying the 500 and getting the 2%. You have the lower mortgage. I'm refinancing one of my 4 unit buildings as we speak right now. We're going from a great interest rate. We can have like a 4% interest rate. We caught it at 2.5. We're saving $1,000 on our mortgage. That's
Why not?
happening now.
Why
Look at
not?
these interest rates. These interest
So yeah,
buy.
so we at our last leg of the show, the last 10 minutes. I want to take one more last break. Our good sponsor, V1 Marketing, about virtual assistants. And then I want to come back. I want to talk about goals, what motivates you, and some other stuff. I ain't want to ask you just yet. I like to surprise my guests to get a good
That's
answer.
fine. Surprise me. Okay.
All right,
This
V.
podcast is sponsored by V1 VAs. If you're looking for a virtual assistant, we are the number one place to come and get your virtual assistants. I don't care if you're a realtor, if you run a car agency, if you run an ad agency, if you are a wholesaler, I don't care what you is. If the position requires you to use a computer or a working telephone, I can get you somebody in that position for $4 an hour, fully trained, ready to go. Stop wasting time and get to the next level with your business by generating more money and doing less and spending less on labor costs. Text me now, 202-335-3322. The time is now to take your business to the next level.
Welcome back. Listen, guys, text me 202-335-3322. You never know. You might actually catch me on the phones talking to you, helping you get your business to the next level. So April, I want to talk. I ask everybody that come on my show, right? Even when I had the Nothing But Nuggets show, that asked them the same exact question. I gotta ask you this question. It's the year 2021, which means it's basically the start of a new decade. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years at the end of the decade? Year 2030.
Well, I see myself doing much, much more. Um, where I'm at right now in my journey is nothing but commercial. So I want to play 100% in that sandbox next. Even though I have some small commercial properties, I want to go large commercial, like Grant Cardone large commercial, because that's where I see myself in 10 years or less.
Awesome. So let's talk about because I got a few minutes. Your top tools, because this is Entrepreneur Toolbelt podcast. Let's talk about your top tools you must have to run your business or your personal life. It doesn't matter. It could be an app, software. It could be anything.
Well, that's really hard for me to say because I'm not, which is bad. I'm not as much of a tools or even
Oh,
systems
what
person.
motivates you? I know you got to put that Rick Ross on when you ready to bust a move.
Oh, oh
So
my
come
goodness.
on, let's talk about that then. I got you. What's your favorite hype song?
Man, the everything Rick Ross, I don't care what it is. It just something about that man and his music just does it for me. So anything Rick Ross, it is on and popping. But really what motivates me is my family and the win, because right? So I'm trying to create this legacy that goes beyond my children and my grandchildren. And I've already gotten as far as creating the legacy for my children. That's
Right.
done. But I want to be able to do this so that they can see and participate in entrepreneurialism without any worries about it or fears. I want them to learn. So that is what inspires me for everything that I do. Tool wise, I'm not a huge because and it's terrible because everybody around me use tools. I'm not a big fan of paying for a whole lot of stuff that I know I'm not going to use when I'm belly to belly with people. I love to, and COVID has been hurting me with that one, the belly to belly move. But I like to talk to like a deal where I'm trying to lock down. I'm just going to talk to you. I'm not really into which. Listen to this. Scaling is all about the optics, right? Because if you're
Right.
scaling, you're making 10K on the deal and you just scaled to 10 deals making 10K, that's 100K. Well, maybe my one deal is going to make 100K all by itself. So I'm looking for the quality of it. And I do very well with that. And I cash flow extremely well from all the business ventures that I do. I don't make less than 1,200 on any, as far as like a single family that I'm renting. If I'm doing Airbnb, I mean, or short-term rental, you looking at anywhere between 4 and 12,000. I wish I could share my screen and show you my Airbnb from last year. I mean, it's above 10,000. It's off the charts, so I'm content with that. And could I scale those things? Yeah, sure. But I like to have my hand in every pot, So today I had a mentee ask me about mobile homes. I like having the broad spectrum and being able to touch all these strategies and grow from there. So that also inspires me, being able to help people, to show them that, look, this is not a one trick pony. You got to be able to step outside your box and look at the full spectrum of things. Get into one or two things, master them, and then get into something else, because you don't know if you don't like it if you don't try it.
Right. Well, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, it's been a pleasure interviewing you. I've been chasing you for years, and I finally got you on. I appreciate it. I just text you, hey, you busy tomorrow? Oh, I'm not busy. Good. Come on my podcast. I ain't even tell her. I ain't leave with the podcast at first. I just asked, was you busy? So I really appreciate you. How could people find you if they wanted to reach out to you? And you got a coaching program,
Well,
don't
you
you?
can go. I do. Well, you can go to Facebook or you can go to Instagram. It's just my name, April Pradier. And yeah, I'm glad that you called me on here. And it's so funny because this is one topic out of so many that I can talk about. I got a lot in this brain, and I know strategy and I know creative financing. And yes, I do have a mentorship. I am helping people.
Well, if you need mentorship, I can stamp her right now. She's solid. Ever since I met her, since day one, she always treated me the same, never switched up on me, stayed consistent with her character. Her husband is amazing. We smoke cigars, we chill. They some good, wholesome people. So if you want to do business with her, you need some good mentorship. If you're from the DC area, let her coach you. I guarantee you she's sing you to the moon.
Even outside of DC area.
Even
Got your back.
outside of DC area. Look at that. She's probably using technology. Shout out to your best friend. I'm pretty sure he got you using technology because you're not really technology driven.
He does. Shout out to Sean.
Shout out to Sean. We got to get on it too.
Cool.
But ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, April. I'm going to make a few announcements, and we're going to wrap it on up. Thank you so much for attending the podcast, April. So, guys, I want to talk to you really quickly. Put me on camera 6. Thank you. I want to talk to you guys really quickly. I want to give you guys some good information. This is my recommendation, my book recommendation for this quarter right here. I got 2 books I want you to read that really changed my life and to change the way I ran my businesses and how I scaled to multiple 6 figures every single year. One is the 10X rule, right? If you're not a Grant Cardone follower, look past his cockiness and his egoness and listen to the valuable information he give you. If you read this book, I guarantee you, you're going to see results. If you notice, I wear the bracelets. I'm a really good Grant Cardone person. The next one, Your Next 5 Moves. Master the Art of Business Strategy, right? By Pat David. I follow him on YouTube and Instagram. He got some amazing content. You should grab this book. And I want to leave you guys with the quote of the episode, which is, if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you're determined to learn, no one can stop you. Until next time, follow me on Instagram, CO929. I appreciate everybody. We're having a mastermind June 5th, I believe. It's a one-day mastermind. If you want to do virtual wholesaling, tickets $49. Go to the website, co929.com. 50% off, $49. I guarantee you we're going to teach you everything you need to know, how to scale your business, get your business to the next level. That one mastermind can literally change your business. So if you're out here struggling, just give us a shot. What is $49? That's not even a porterhouse steakhouse. A porter. What's the name of the steak, Corey? A T-bone steak. It's not even cost of a T-bone steak at Mastro's. If you can got money for a T-bone steak, you got money to come to our event. Other than that, man, I appreciate you guys. I see you next week. I got another amazing guest speaker. coming on. It's going to be a hot and spicy podcast next week because she's a very spicy person. But appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Until next time, catch you on the Entrepreneur Podcast. Give me my intro one more time. Everybody got to see it because I ain't see it at the beginning. Hit the intro.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Toolbelt Podcast, the only podcast you'll ever need to get your business to the next level. This podcast is powered by Antoine, Campbell Enterprise. This podcast is sponsored by V1 VAs. If you're looking for virtual assistants, we are the number one place to come get your virtual assistants. I don't care if you're a realtor, if you run a car agency, if you run an ad agency, if you are a wholesaler, I don't care what you is. If the position requires you to use a computer or a working telephone, I can get you somebody in that position for $4 an hour, fully trained, ready to go. Stop wasting time and get to the next level with your business by generating more money and doing less and spending less on labor costs. Text me now, 202-335-3322. The time is now to take your business to the next level. This podcast, the Entrepreneur Toolbelt Podcast, is sponsored by Easy Skip Tracing. Go to Easy Skip Tracing for your most robust data